So, Republicans happily, gleefully voted for a convicted felon. Now they mad because a formerly incarcerated brother is part of the criminal justice plan committee, whatever you want to call it, for New York City Mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani. Now, I'm confused. I'm confused. Why would you be mad that Mysonne, a former Def Jam rapper who served 7 years in the state prison for 2 Bronx taxi robberies in the 90s, has been appointed to Mamdani's transition criminal legal system committee? Mamdani explained to reporters why he chose Mysonne to be a part of his team.
We put together a team of more than 400 New Yorkers who are on 17 different committees, and these are New Yorkers who bring with them both a fluency of the policies and politics of the city, the places that they've succeeded, the places that they've failed. And we will take all of their experiences and their analysis into account as we build a city for each and every person.
Pretty simple. Mysonne joins us right now. Glad to have you on the show, brother.
Thank you for having me, man. How are you?
This is beyond laughable. To me, this is very basic. If I was a mayor-elect and I wanted a panel or a committee that dealt with nutrition in the city, I'm probably going to get people who that's what they know about. If I actually want a committee to examine the conditions of the city jail, I probably will want to hear from folks who have been in it and folks who probably worked at it. Well, I don't understand why all these old nutcase folk are mad, upset because you serve your time, you committed the act, you were convicted, you serve your time, happened long ago, paid your debt to the society, you have been working, trying to end violence, all sorts of things, and they mad that you would be on this committee? How dumb is that?
I mean, to me, it sounds foolish. I think we always say in the movement that those closest to the problem are also closest to the solution. As you stated, I've been home. This crime that I was convicted of, and I still maintain my innocence. I went to trial and was found guilty by a jury, and I ended up serving 7 years out of a 14-year sentence, and this was in 1999. So I came home in 2006. For over 2 decades, I've been home doing community work, doing nonviolence work, doing civil rights work, doing violence interruption work, dealing with at-risk youth, doing everything possible to make my community better. So when we have these conversations about why someone who is formerly incarcerated is at the table, someone who went through the Department of quote-unquote corrections, who went through a rehabilitation stage, as that's what they say the system is supposed to do. So why would we not want people who reacclimate into society to be productive members, especially when the track record of the last 20 years of my life has shown that I'm a productive member of society, and I represent and have an expertise in the field of criminal justice.
Right. I mean, this is not, to me, that difficult, but it also goes to show you that the folk on the right and the New York Post played this up big. Oh, they played it up big. And that's the Rupert Murdoch-owned right-wing newspaper in New York. That's just who they are. So they've been playing up big. And if we want to confront, again, how do we keep folk from going to prison, we talk to people who can weigh in on type of programs to do it. If I'm trying to start, I remember when I was in Chicago. When I was in Fort Worth. When I was in Fort Worth, they passed this initiative to employ former gang members to help end gang violence. And these people are all mad, upset. And I'm like, well, who the hell do y'all think will have the credibility to go sit with gang members than folk who used to be in the gangs?
That's right. There's a level of expertise in everything. Unfortunately, there are a lot of returning citizens and people who are justice impacted that actually committed crimes, but they paid their debt to society. And I think it's hypocritical to say that you want someone to be rehabilitated and that you want them to pay for what it is that they done, and then they paid for what they done, and then they come home and they're on the right track, and you make it seem that they no longer can be a productive member of society. And I would like to salute the mayor-elect for his comments and stating that he created a committee of over 400 people, and it's people from all walks of life, different lived life experiences, some who are incarcerated, some who've been on the other side of the criminal justice system, and we all sit around and we come up with ideas, and we come up what policy is going to work best, what is work best. I have an understanding about the school to prison pipeline. Being a young boy, watching a lot of my peers and a lot of my friends go from junior high school to prison, and those are things that I want to talk about. How do we get in front of the prison system? How do we put systems and structures in school that identify the kids who are struggling instead of suspending them? Because once you suspend a kid and you put him in the street, he's doomed to go into the system. So these are things that I've been studying, and I realize are things that I haven't seen any administration tackle. So that's what the level of expertise that I bring to the table that I know is going to be important if we're really trying to end the violence and the crime in our communities.
It goes to credibility. It goes to, not bringing what I call a theoretical perspective to it. Listen, I have spoken. I've been to many universities. I was 107 HBCUs. I've been to 50 or 59 of them. I've been numerous PWIs. And when people ask me, Roland, you've been in media since you were 14 years old. That's the last 43 years. What do I see as the biggest problem with media? I said, easy. People teaching journalism who ain't never done it. Like, you can't... I remember when I was at Texas A&M, and it was a television writing class, and the teacher gave me a grade, and I said, let me ask you a question. I said, and what's crazy is I had the producers who work at the local TV station help me with my assignment. I said, let me ask you a question. You ever worked in TV? She said, no. I said, well, how in the hell can you teach me TV writing and you ain't never worked in television? I said, you must have read a book just like I did. And she got mad, and she said, well, why don't you go to the department head? I said, I'll be back. And I went to the department head, and I walked in, and he was like, Roller, I know, calm down. I was like, no, Doc, how you going to have somebody teaching me television writing who ain't never worked in television? To me, that's the dumbest thing in the world. So we can have a hypothetical conversation. We can have an academic conversation, the things that we need to do to lower crime, how we need to do with mental illness, what must we do with young men and women who don't have fathers or mothers in the home, how do we deal with these folks who are having one meal a day or one meal every other day. No, but if I got some folk who've been through it and who are in it, who are talking to folk every day, that's the difference between what I say a PhD and a PhD.
That's right. And that's just the mentality that I come from. I can't erase the past. I can't erase the fact that I was in prison. I served 7 years. But all of those experiences that I've had, just being inside that system, knowing the flaws inside of the system, knowing the flaws outside that lead to the system, all of those things, this lived experience that I have gives me a level of expertise that I don't believe that anyone else that's on this transition team has. So, I defend myself by saying, look at my track record. They'll try to judge you by the worst seconds of your life. And once again, I still maintain my innocence, but they'll judge you based on the fact that you were convicted of a crime. But they won't look at the last 20 years of my life when I've been doing public service, and it's well documented that I've been on the right side of history and of justice.
Questions from our panel. Thelma, you first.
First and foremost, I commend you on all of the work that you are doing, because you are the perfect person in position to sit on a panel that is going to create change, because we can only do that by being educated from people who have experienced it. Because if we don't, we're going to still continue to see people who are not educated on what they're doing that lands them into situations wrongfully and under their own accord. So my question is, how do you feel when you have police officers who have probably violated individuals' constitutional rights and have not been caught, trying to dictate whether you are more qualified than them?
You know, I'm not a police officer. I don't know what the training is. I've never been through the police training. And I believe that they have a job to do, right? I believe that they have a function within society. But they don't understand which function on the opposite side of the aisle for those who are justice impacted, who have served time, who have to go through the justice system and see the flaws and see how a lot of our youth are being overcharged and over incarcerated and given way too much time. They don't see all of those things until some of them actually fall and they find themselves on the opposite side. And then I've heard them say, wow, I didn't know all of that was happening. So what I would say to people that have that mentality, officer, you have to do your job. And the work that we've been doing in the CMS and the Credible Messengers organizations and what we've been doing in my organization, Until Freedom, at rewriting legislation for criminal justice, making it safer for the community, giving inmates and convicted individuals humanity, giving them actual opportunity to come home and be successful. It just makes no sense to me. As a police officer, why would you not want to understand the person that's inside of the system so that you can try to limit those people from going in the system to make your job easier? You know, I think the thing we should be doing is those on the opposite side of the law sitting down, having conversations and utilizing both of our lived experience, both of our knowledge and our wisdom and our expertise to come up with the best plan for our criminal justice system.
Cameron.
Good to see you again, brother Mysonne.
Peace, King. Peace.
Route 100 last met. Again, thank you for all the work you've been doing in both in the community and on social and through your podcast and through media. I think you really have a full 360 approach on how you're reaching multiple generations. My question here, and I think you have a unique opportunity to bring in the hip hop generation and the hip hop community into government, especially with the mayor-elect Mamdani kind of represents to so many different people. And I think, how do you plan to maybe serve as a bridge to the larger hip hop community? Because I think as we move into these next several elections, a lot of folks, both not just rappers themselves, but people in the industry and all the folks that they influence don't see themselves or don't see an opportunity for themselves in the political system. They say no matter what the mayor, some of these same laws and how the police are treating them and some of these same issues are still arising. But I think you being on the inside, or you working with the mayor and working with his administration, both from transition and in governing, has such a unique opportunity to be a bridge to so many more influential, I won't just say the community and the fans, but also the artists through New York. Because, New York has it's the home of hip hop, and it has such a rich hip hop history. And there's so many different artists and folks in hip hop that are kind of at every level. So I'm really excited about what you could potentially do there.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I thought about before even accepting, the offer to be a part of this transition team, is how can I impact the community? How can I impact the culture? And when the newspaper, the Post, decided to put me on the front and quote unquote call me a crime boss and try to smear me, it was refreshing to listen to my community defend me. It was refreshing to hear artists, radio hosts, everybody possible come forward to say this man has been doing this work, selflessly, honestly, and making real impact for over a decade. So when they stood up and they seen me, I've been getting calls and text messages from so many of my friends. They say what the devil means for bad, God will transform into good. And They thought that they were doing something to defame me, but they just opened up the eyes and made people feel like we actually have an opportunity to have someone that they know from our community who loves our people, who loves our community, and is really trying to save the kids in the community and do the best for our community inside and have his voice be heard. So they know that when I walk into those rooms, I'm bringing them with me. So I believe it definitely empowers our hip-hop culture. You know, a lot of the people who didn't see themselves inside of this political sphere, who were pretty much done, are saying, yo, I feel like we have an opportunity with you at those tables, being able to voice our opinion and be able to voice, you know, the ideas of our community.
Greg?
Thank you, Roland, and thank you, brother Mysonne. Yeah, we know what these critics, their purpose is. Their purpose is to try to destroy the Mamdani mayoralty, and they are anti-human. They are anti-life, and I agree with you, brother. Police are doing exactly what they are formed to do, and it has nothing to do with improving the lives of anyone. So that having been said, I think we can set aside the retired chief of department for the NYPD talking to the New York Post. It's doing what it needs to do, which is, of course, expressing its dying white nationalist philosophy. And congratulations to New York City for rolling over that. You'll be sworn in, I understand, in a little less than 3 weeks, and you're going to hit the ground running. My question to you and to your comrades as well, I understand that there are several folks from Until Freedom who are joining the 400 plus. What is your philosophy, if you can maybe offer some insight into how you view public safety and how you view so-called criminal justice as it relates to the kind of things y'all will be talking about once you're sworn in, and really get down into the details of how you really transform an institution and transform a society?
Well, I think for us, the reality of public safety is the community-based safety, right? We always say that police don't come and stop crimes in our community. They come and arrest you after the crime. You know, and sometimes they actually make the crime more hyper, and they amp things up. And when you have credible messages in our communities, when you have people who deal with mental health in our communities, because a lot of those situations in community can be prevented, right? We want to deal with preventative measures first. And when you have community respected people inside of the community who come from the community, some who are formerly incarcerated, some who have been former gang members, some who just are community leaders. And when you give those people opportunities and give them jobs inside their communities to where it's a community-based organization, and when people feel comfortable and they're able to foresee, situations happen inside communities, because it's always somebody in that side of the community who has the pulse of the community. So if we start empowering those people who have the pulse on the community, we've seen over the years the CMS, the crisis management system, has reduced violence in our communities tremendously. And we want to pour more into that, pour more resources into that. We don't want to send our people to jail. We don't want to always have our kids going to jail and being suspended. We want to figure out, how do we prevent the crimes before it happens? How do we do restorative justice? How do we find young kids who might have done something that it's illegal, and we find a way to give them a path towards being redeemed and being able to be educated and be successful? We don't want to take away the likelihood of their success. So we want to see it as a community-based motto in which we put violence interrupters inside communities, and they work alongside the police. There will be times where the police may be needed. The crime has exceeded something that credible messages can do. But more often than not, they really don't. They don't never have to, if we have the resources in our community and we empower the proper people.
All right, then. Well, look, congratulations. It's great that the mayor is doing this. I wish more mayors would do this sort of thing, because it's critically important to be bringing in multiple voices when we talk about trying to fix many of these societal problems. So, Mysonne, look, you've done great work for the years. You've been a great voice, and certainly we appreciate having you on the show.
Thank you for having me, man. I just hope that we continue to support each other. They always want to defame us, and they always want to look at us and look at the worst times of us. I want us to continue to uplift people like you, Roland. I just want to give you your flowers, because you don't get enough flowers. That, like you said, the conversations had here and upliftment of our people is not happening anywhere else. So continue to do the work.
I appreciate it, my brother. Thanks a lot.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.